What's up, guys? Welcome back to Glorify. As always, go ahead, subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to give us a big thumbs up. Hit that bell so that you know every single time we upload, and share this video. Today's video is going to be, I guess, maybe a little different because I'm really just going to talk about me. I'm going to talk about how I got here. No, not in my bedroom against this yellow backdrop, but how I got here, where I am in Christ, and just a little bit about my journey. So if you are interested, even if you're not, you know, there might be a couple of gems in here. I'm not saying, I'm just saying there might be something that's worth you sticking around. All right, so in the beginning, when the earth was void and without form and darkness was upon the deep. No, actually, I'm kidding, but let me give you guys a disclaimer first. I'm no one's pastor. I'm no one's theologian. I don't consider myself to be a Bible scholar or one of the greatest minds of our time. I'm really just a woman that's lived a little bit of life and had a few experiences. But the one thing I do know is that I wouldn't be here. Now, I don't mean here looking at this camera. I don't mean here in my home. I mean here on this planet, in this life, without Christ. And I think that some of the experiences that I've had, some of the things that I've learned, even the things that I'm learning now, can benefit someone else. And that's who I am at the very core of me. Anything that I have that can help you or anybody else, I'm here to give it away. My gifts are for the King, and I think this is one of the gifts that I can give to him. So that being said, I have no credentials from anyone other than God that says that I can do this. But my testimony is really all I have, and that I give freely. So with that being said, let's start. All right. So I grew up in the church. I'm a church girl for sure. And I grew up in the church from a very young age. I grew up in a holiness. I don't know if y'all can hear me. My kids are in the back yelling, but I grew up in a holiness Pentecostal church. And I was introduced to God at a very young age. I can say that growing up in a very small church, one of those really small churches in the country, 25, 30 members at capacity, you know, full capacity at any given time. The bulk of my family being in there, all of my family holding some position, my aunt being a deaconess, my grandmother being a usher, a missionary, that kind of environment. And then the other members being the pastor's son, son's wife, that kind of community. That's the kind I grew up in. And I just remember there being so many rules as a kid, and I remember looking at them, and they were supposed to be my examples, and seeing nothing, that we were nothing alike. So I didn't really know how I was supposed to grow up. And with all these rules, like, what I could tell you what I was not supposed to do way more than I could explain, or even had a compass for what I was supposed to do. You know, I wasn't supposed to wear pants, at least to church. I wasn't supposed to listen to secular music. I wasn't supposed to date or want to date. I wasn't supposed to, can't, couldn't, don't. That's what was just really beat into my head at a very young age. And so I just started to have this struggle relationship with God, because of course, you know, I grew up in a time about, not Bible study, yes, Bible study, but Sunday school. And I thank God for Sunday school, because Sunday school really introduces you to the Bible. But of course, I didn't have like the Holy Bible. What I had was a Sunday school book and a children's Sunday school or children's Bible, so I would know the stories. But I thank God for that introduction, because I really feel like that's something lacking in a lot of my generation. So during Sunday school, they would tell these stories. I remember one time just hearing the story of Noah's Ark, and I believe around that time there was a tsunami in some Asian country. I can't remember which one, and they basically equated it to the same thing, and they were just saying that it basically was a judgment of God against that place. And I remember that hit me like a brick, and it hurt so bad. And I remember I can't remember how old I was, but I remember crying for those people, and I remember crying because they said that, and how is that true? And how is the God that you tell me is love, but all I ever see or hear is don't, no, 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 and now judgment. So like, where is this love that you speak of? And growing up, and when you're a child, you see things through a child's eyes. So growing up in that space, it didn't feel very loving. It felt very stifling. Very, very stifling and very controlling. And so all I knew was, yes, I have a healthy respect for God and I love him, but I love him because I'm scared of him, because I fear him. I respect him because I know if I cross that line, I could be gone. But the line was just so thin that I didn't really understand how I can make it to heaven. How? Because there's just really, is there a way that I can follow every single one of these rules? And I remember feeling that pressure, like being a 9-year-old girl and feeling that pressure, like, how am I going to get to heaven? Oh God, I can't do this and I can't do that. And just feeling like basically what I had to give to God was my unhappiness. And if I just lived this life with as little pleasure, fun, or positive experiences as possible, then he would be pleased. That's what's going to please him. If I walk this straight and narrow and never look down and hold my head up and look only to him, right, without actually having any idea of who he is, that's what's going to get me to heaven. The sad, sad, sad truth of that is, being that young, I really didn't find heaven that appealing. I felt like, okay, the alternative of hell, obviously. I don't want to burn forever anywhere. So, yeah, I'll take heaven, but all we're going to do is have church in there all day. And we already have church till 6 at night on a Sunday. So it didn't really sound appealing. And all I ever heard was, the streets are paved with gold. And I'm like, well, I don't really care, about gold. I really don't care if the streets are paved with gold or not. But it sounds better than hell. So I'm going to keep walking this straight and narrow to the best of my ability. And, hope that I make it in there, this place filled with old people that are not happy about anything, that are miserable, but didn't go to hell, because that's what it meant to be holy and righteous. It meant that you followed these rules, you followed them to a T, and you were stone-faced and very straight about it. Or at least that's what it seemed like growing up. Now, I'm definitely not trying to bash that church or even that experience, because at the end of the day, that church, if I had not had that foundation, I would be lost. And if I wouldn't have even had that experience, I wouldn't know how freeing it is to have a relationship with God. So we're going to fast forward. So that's the environment that I grew up in, and I thank God for it. And I had an experience with God. This was the very first time I felt like God was speaking to me. We used to have dinner at the church. So around 3 o'clock, we would leave, the kitchen staff would leave service and go to the back of the church, begin to cook, warm stuff up. And honestly, at probably maybe 12, that was the highlight of service, okay? It's 2:45, all right? It's 2:50. I gotta go get dinner ready. So I'm looking at the clock. I'm looking at that clock and I'm counting it down, and 3 o'clock comes and I'm just about to scoot on out of there, and all of a sudden the pastor comes up to me, and he's like, Tiana. He stops in the middle of service. I'm like, right? So immediately I'm embarrassed because he called me. He knows that I was looking at the clock. He knows that I was not listening to one single word that he said. He knows that I don't want to be in here, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm immediately ashamed, and I just know I look crazy guilty, because it's like, yes sir, help us God. And he says, Tiana, I'm gonna tell you something. And I was like, oh, okay sir. And he's like, it's not your thing, and you can't do what you want to do with it. And I was like, okay sir. Like, what am I supposed to say? I'm like 12. I don't even really know what you're talking about, Between the ooh and an ah, I'm like, what? But, and, he's getting ready to walk away, and then he turns back and he says, when you're going to grow up and you're going to wonder why it's so easy for everybody else to do things. He's like, and you're going to look around and you won't be able to do things. He was like, you'll want to do it so bad, but you won't be able to do things. He was like, and you're going to remember that I said to you right now, because it's not your thing and you can't do what you want to do with it. He said there's a call on your life and there's a purpose on your life. He was like, and you will not be able to do what you see other people do. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know, of course, you know, more fun snatching, more rules, can't do this, can't do that. Of course, that's what I'm used to. That's the MO. So I'm like, yes, sir, you know, Pastor, I get it. Hands up. And then I scurried to the kitchen, and that's the end of that. So when I was about 14 or 15, I moved. When I moved, I moved to a different place, so I was no longer in that church community. And you know, I'm 14, getting ready to turn 15, about to start driving. So like once I was from up under that roof, from away from that church, I was like, oh, I'm free. And so once I get free, the first thing I'm doing when I go back to church, I'm coming back with pants. I'm about to get tatted up, okay? I'm getting tatted up. There won't be nothing they can do. All right, I'm coming there with the smallest skirts on I can find, because I was actively and intentionally in an act of rebellion. And I wanted everybody to know, like, hey, I'm free, okay? You can't tell me what to do. I'm not listening to what to do. And yeah, and there won't be anything you can do about it. I'm getting ready to get this car, and when I drive it, what can you do? And I was so excited. So I lived about 2 hours away from where I grew up, and so maybe once a month I would come home for church. And when I came, I would come in the smallest skirts. I would come with a new tattoo. I would come, help me God and forgive me, I would come, you know, with a friend that had on real small shorts or something, or have to leave in the middle of service, or all kind of things, all kind of different ways, you know. And I did this on purpose. Now this was intentional, because this was my to, you know, everyone I felt stifled me or restricted me in any kind of way. You know, it's to some degree it's true when they say, you know, you don't give your kids enough freedom, they kind of go crazy. Now definitely wasn't as crazy as a lot of my peers, but when I got some freedom, I did kind of, you know, go a little too far. Okay guys, this video, it really took on a life of its own. So if you are still interested in seeing just how far he's taking me, and finding out how far was too far then, and just really going on this journey with me, stick around. I promise that it definitely won't be a boring tale. But don't stick around for the drama. Stick around to hear just how good he's been to me. Alright, until next time. Mwah.